I was turning 60 years old and just doing a lot of reflection coming out of COVID about my life, the work that I do, how I sort of got here. And I just started writing. And I think I wrote for almost 2 years prior to that. But I finally felt like I was ready to really move through this part of the journey, right? And so I wrote about things that some people closest to me didn't even know had occurred in my life. But really starting from my childhood and some of the trauma that was associated with that. And I just kept going. And I realized that in the beginning, I think I was doing it for my own healing. I don't think I ever really intentionally planned on publishing it. But as I got further and further into the journey, I realized how much this was going to help other people to feel less alone, less broken, less isolated, especially with all of the mental health challenges that we're seeing all around us coming. I think they became more present during COVID, or more people were talking more about some of their struggles. So yeah, I wrote the book. I shared the story. Even after I did it, while I felt very free and liberated, it was so interesting to me because even then I was very attached to the expectations that I had of how it would be received by people that were closest to me, and expectations, they're the root of all evil, right? So, because when they're not met, then you're left feeling depleted or disappointed. But that process was just another layer of the learning for me to realize that I needed to let go of those attachments because I wasn't writing the book for those people. I was writing the book for people who needed to know that there were solutions for them. Strangers, so perfect strangers, were reaching out to me saying, thank you so much for sharing that story or this story, the different things I had talked about, because they could resonate with it. And again, right, the shame gets released when you realize that other people have experienced some of these same kinds of painful life events and traumas, and that there's a way through it. There's a way to move that energy and to get to a place where you can find more fulfillment and joy in your life. And that was really the aha moment for me, was in my sharing my story. I was able to bring other people out to feel safer sharing theirs. And to, I talk a lot about the fact that we're always invited to be who we are, right? But how many of us really do that? We feel safer when we hide behind some of our truths, but when we can really come out and share ourselves with one another, we actually foster this amazing sense of compassion and community that I think the world needs more of today. And so these women came out of the woodwork, and I helped them get to a place where they felt comfortable sharing their stories, and then really helped work with them to curate the process, because it's not just writing the story. Then you actually have to read it and think about how it's going to be received, right? But just like my experience, and be courageous enough to be okay with that, and to not worry so much about how others will receive the story, but the people that are closest to you, but that people who really need to hear that they're not alone, that's really your audience. And that's the magic that started to unfold. And I realized this is more than a book. Like, this is an empowerment movement for people. And that I wanted to just get the message out there that, the more that we can be authentic with one another, the more meaningful and conscious communications and connections we're going to be having together. I feel like I've been really focused for the last 8 years on my own community, this sort of heart-centered community that I've fostered here, and it became clear to me, even in sharing my story with these women who all thought they knew me, right? That process of unraveling and unfolding for them, these parts of me that they didn't know. They knew certain levels of me. They didn't know that I had been abandoned when I was born, or that I had experienced some of these other, serious traumas during my life. And so they had a completely different understanding of who I was. And again, that discovery of how powerful that is made me realize that I'm being called to get out and help other people who are out there feeling lonely or feeling stuck or feeling like they have no way through their pain, that there really are others out there that will understand and that can support them. And that, the more we talk about these things, the more we change up the conversations. And, social media, I think about this a lot. It's so fake, right? It has a lot of really positive aspects to it, but we're all only putting out the stuff that makes us look like we're really in doing great, right? When under the surface, so many of us are struggling. And so there's that sort of pressure that we feel, particularly our young people, to be like all the people on social media, and the scrolling, and it's really not so good for our mental health, that comparison. So I think the more we can talk about our real stories, our real situations, our real challenges, the more we'll be able to support people who are struggling in some way with their sense of self, with their sense of compassion for themselves. Because it really starts there, right? You can't have compassion for somebody else if you're not having it for yourself. So there's a lot for all of us to learn through this process, but I think it's really important. So I don't even think about the courage part. I just feel like I'm being called to share what I have learned with other people. I actually started the She Breeze Women's Collaborative in 2016 when I still had my corporate business. And, it was like my nights and weekends gig where I was building this community of women at the time. And then at the end of 2019, I sold my corporate business and, dove into this concept of expanding to a wider audience. And March 1st, I signed the lease to triple my space and to create the We Breathe Wellness Center, where anyone could come for growth and healing regardless of their gender identity. And I signed the lease on March 1st, which was 17 days before the world shut down. And it was like, whoa, that was a little scary. Talk about having a moment of regret. I remember thinking, what have I done? But, none of us really knew how long that was going to go. And I now know that I was just being called to create this space for people to come to when they needed it, which was, more critical than ever before, because everyone was just floundering, right? With that, something that was so unprecedented. We had no roadmap for a global pandemic. None of us had been through anything like that before. So it really, the wave of that, the after effect of that was really serious. And I saw it myself in my own practice with people, coming out and really talking more openly about their depression, their anxiety, even their suicide ideation during that time, because people really felt lonely and isolated. And, we all crave the sense of belonging, right, in community. So it's very important that everyone feels like they have a community or a tribe that they can belong to and be seen and heard and valued there. You are here to understand yourself, not to be understood by others. I feel like we put so much emphasis on how we are being received and perceived in the world by other people. Again, back to this idea of expectations that others have of us. And I think that we get off track, with concepts that our parents had of us, or people who are in our lives and where they saw us going, the direction we should be taking. And we absorb all that. That's what creates these sort of belief systems for ourselves. But if I could go back and even reparent my own daughter to say, look, you are here to be whoever you are here to be. You need to understand yourself, love yourself, know yourself. Because if you can't do that, you're going to struggle and you're going to feel stuck and you're going to feel inauthentic. And so the book is all about embodying your own essence, your true nature, who you are and what you're designed to be, who you're designed to be and what you're designed to be doing here in this experience as in an energy body on Earth. And so I really feel like the more we can teach our young people to be able to go internal and to listen to their own inner voice and their own guidance, I think that that's what's going to bring us to a more compassionate and resilient way of being, because we get really tripped up by these expectations that others have of us. So that would be my message. You're here to understand yourself before you worry about being understood by other people.